Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Aubrey Morgan Yee. But before we bring up Aubrey to the stage, I want to thank one of our amazing sponsors. Let's thank Franosity. Franosity helps individuals who want to build a sustainable, thriving business get into the franchise business and thrive with their assistance. Again, we want to thank Franosity for sponsoring this episode. Now, here she is. Aubrey, how you doing today, Aubrey?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing, Marcus?
I'm doing well, thank you. First question, Aubrey. What does the word authentic / authenticity mean to you?
Oh, I love that question. Actually, in the book I just released, Our Beloved Futures, I have a copy right here. I talk a little bit about the shift from dishonesty to authenticity as one of the major internal shifts that I think is required in this time because we grew up in a sort of dominant culture and have been trained to hide our true selves, to put on masks, to kind of, to put on a face for society to operate in a certain way, to show up in a certain way that isn't always authentic to us. And so to me, authenticity is getting back in touch with that spark within yourself that you were born with, that is authentically you, like it is only you. Nobody else can actually be that exact being and letting that shine through. So it's being true to what you feel deep within yourself and your heart and the other spaces of knowing that are usually outside of the mind. So like your gut, your heart, actually your essence and staying true to those and being courageous enough to show up in that way rather than putting on the mask that we've been trained to show up with, and following the typical sort of confines of what society asks us to look like and be and all of that. So to me, authenticity is everything right now. It's leadership. It's actually what we need to be doing because we've been for so long trying to operate in ways that aren't authentic to ourselves. So I loved that that was the name of your podcast. I was really excited about that topic. And I'd love to know what it means to you. I'm
That's a
curious.
great question. So to
Yeah.
me, to me, Aubrey, authenticity means being who you are in the moment,
Yeah.
knowing that the moment is going to change. We're
Absolutely.
not going to be the same person we were yesterday, a year ago. And what happens is I feel, and I love your thoughts on this, Aubrey. I think too many people get caught up in what they've accomplished or who they were in the past, and
Yeah.
it impedes their future progress because they spend so much time saying, well, I was this, I
Mm.
used to be that,
Mm.
I'm a has been in this area. That'd be like
Oof.
me. I was a football player. Again,
Mm.
saying it's part of your life is one thing, but then saying, oh, I remember doing this in football and doing that and, and getting this
Sure.
so wrapped up in it, you're not putting yourself in a position, I feel, right, Aubrey, to
Mhm.
actually move forward and have your life go in the way that you want it to go because you're so focused on the past. What are your thoughts on that, Aubrey?
Yeah, I love that reflection because to me it's sort of pointing out the difference between identity and authenticity. And I think we kind of confuse the two is what I'm hearing you say in that is that we identify with I do this, like these are the things I've accomplished, achieved, the titles I wear. I'm a mother, I'm a, wife, I'm a football player, whatever it might be. We identify with those and we get stuck in that identity, but our authenticity is something much more timeless. It's like that, like you said, it changes with us as we change. And the beautiful thing, I don't know how old you are, Marcus, but I'm turning 50 this year. So it's like the beautiful thing of getting older is to see the patterns of my life as this incredible tapestry that nobody else could have done. So at the time, maybe all these things that I did, from this identity to that identity seemed maybe they didn't make sense. I don't understand why this happened or that happened. But as you start to get later in life, I find, at least for myself, that I'm seeing this incredible picture emerge that nobody else could be exactly who I am right now with all those different identities that we're coming out of this deeper place of authenticity that is me, that's timeless. So I think you're hitting something really important, and that idea of getting stuck in the identity, like you said, it starts to trap you, and then you're not enough, right? Because you're not that thing anymore, or you're not going to always be the strong football player that was 25 years old, when you're 70. So it's like, but there's something of the football player experience in you that always lives on and informs who you become in the next now moment, right? So it's not like you lose that identity. It just becomes part of this much richer picture of who Marcus is. And that's the exciting part of life, I think. But
No, I think that's great because, again, ladies and gentlemen, it's about you recognizing that the things you did in the past, right, are not going to be who you are in the future. And again, authenticity is understanding that parts of what you've done, again, some parts that you still may have, but again, some parts you might be new. You might be, again, I'm not the same person I was when I was playing football. I'm not the same person I was when I owned a construction company. I'm not the same person that I was when I started speaking or started
mhm,
this podcast. So authenticity, and I love what Aubrey said, it's timeless. It just continues to move with us. And again, as long as we embrace it and not try to downplay it or keep it like, hidden or in a box, we allow ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. That's
mhm,
how I feel. Aubrey,
yeah.
tell us more about the work you're doing right now before we get into your amazing book project.
Yeah, so I'm a futurist is what the title I've got through my various academic research and the doctorate I got and the PhD and all that stuff. But it basically means I like to help people think about the where they want to go, whether it's in their own life, as a community, as a society, as a state, whatever it looks like. But it's productively thinking about the futures rather than being passive receivers of the futures. We learn a lot about history and how to study history and to learn from the past. So I'm curious about learning from the futures, what's coming towards us rather than what's behind us, but they both work together. So my work centers on what I call life-centric futures. So it's building new systems as some of the systems that we're seeing break down that, maybe worked for a time but aren't working the same way they used to. And we're seeing that all over society in this moment. So I'm curious in empowering people to remember that we created those systems. We can create new ones that I call are more life centric, meaning they support life, they help collective thriving, all of us to rise together rather than sort of the systems of separation and isolation that seem to be much more common in our dominant culture today. So that's really, I do a lot of different work around that. I work with some, activists around the globe that are doing everything from social justice work to environmental justice work. I also work in like what's called narrative led systems change. So helping people understand stories and how stories can change culture. So I'm really interested in like the deep shifts of culture. I work with some groups in South Africa that are doing conservation, regeneration, rewilding. So a lot of earth-based practice, elder wisdom practices, things like that, because I'm a lover of earth. I think
I love this. This is
yeah,
this is great. Ladies and gentlemen, I love what she said about her work around, futurist and trying to operate and create systems from the future. Again, the past, like you said, they like she said so eloquently, they work together, right?
yeah,
And that's a great point because she's not saying don't discredit the past,
yeah.
but again, and I said earlier, don't focus so much of your energy and effort solely on the past.
Hmm.
That's the difference. We need to focus our energy and our effort on what's going on in the future. But again, the key word I got from that segment, ladies and gentlemen, was systems. Okay, I'll say it again, systems. All right. Systems are hero making machines. They turn dreams into reality.
Mm.
And so I have an acronym for system, okay? Aubrey, save yourself stress, time, energy, money.
Love that.
So many people don't think about that. Again,
Yeah,
save yourself stress, time, energy, money. Before we get into your book, let's break that down from
yeah.
your perspective. Please talk about how in your work you help people to save, like reserving or preserving or conserving resources and assets, right, Aubrey? So they don't waste them on trivial things.
Yeah, absolutely. I love everything you're saying. And I think this idea of, moving from too much focus on the past allows us for grace and forgiveness. I'm sure you talk about that a lot in your work, I could imagine, because I can just hear that. Your coaching is incredible. I can tell your style is really powerful for people. So I think, for me, there's different ways of thinking about futures. So there's alternative futures or preferred sort of futures vision, which, sort of clearly is like, what do we want to have happen? What's our vision for the future? What's our guiding star? I call it, you might call it a goal or whatever, and then you create systems to move towards that, right? But alternative futures also helps you because you're looking at what are the possibilities, like what happens if I don't do anything different, What if I don't change at all? What does that future look like? And I think for a lot of people, that can be a real wake up call of like, wow, if I just keep doing what I'm doing now, getting the results I've been getting, this is the sort of life I'm going to live. And is that actually what I want for myself? And then to design systems to actually move towards the vision so that you don't end up just doing the same thing over and over. So you can think about alternative futures that let you feel into what's possibly coming my way. What do I need to think about and plan for? And then how can I create systems in my life, daily practices, ways of thinking and being, different, like you named all of them, but different systems that help support my movement in the direction I actually want to go rather than just sort of waiting and seeing what happens, right? So it makes you an active producer of your life rather than a passive receiver of whatever's coming your way.
I love it. The next one is, again, yourself.
Yeah.
Aubrey, can you please tell people how important it is that they don't forget themselves in the process
Oh my
of
God.
trying to help others? Because I tell people, if you
Yes.
don't take care of yourself, you're
Yes.
not in a position to help others.
Yeah, I was just telling my daughter this the other day. She was having this creative burst, and I was like, well, that's because you just filled your cup the last couple of days. You have to fill your own cup, your bowl, whatever you want to call it, your being, yourself, so you can feel full. And then when you overflow, that's what you give. When you're giving from a place of emptiness, you're extracting from your life force and you get exhausted. And I think we're sort of used to thinking of giving as good, right? It's always good. Service is good. Yes, and it has to come from a place where you're fully resourced first, because otherwise you're giving from an empty cup, and that's not gonna last. It's not sustainable. So it is really important to prioritize self-care. Myself, I personally have a really powerful morning practice. I set aside at least an hour, ideally two if I can do it. Depends on how early I wake up. I wake up before the kids. I do, some movement. I do some meditation. I do some reading if I can, a little bit of writing, but just really ground myself in and make sure I'm ready for the day, have a big glass of water. So it's just, these simple things that can just absolutely change your life. But those are systems that you put in place that you commit to yourself as the most important person in your life. Because when you're full and you're radiating out, everyone around you benefits. So you actually give from a place of service that's sustainable.
Next is stress. I tell people, I have several clients who are doctors.
Mm,
Stress is the biggest killer of
yeah.
people over
Yep.
cancer, heart attacks. Stress causes heart attacks. It's horrific. And I tell people systems help to reduce stress. You heard Aubrey just say it. Her morning routine gives herself time, an hour, sometimes two. She is working on reducing her stress level to have a better day. Talk about how systems, right, Aubrey, help reduce stress.
Yeah, so I think what happens in our lives if we just get so busy and the chaos of the everything, right? Work, life, making dinner, going grocery shopping, all the things, traffic, whatever it might be. If we don't have a system in place to know like what are the things I need to do to get something done. So you could use the example of getting your kids ready for school the next day. It's like you have a system with them. You know what's going to happen before bed. You make sure all the things are ready. So it's not stressful when that time comes. It's like everybody kind of knows what's going to happen. I imagine in football, it's like everyone knows the play. You name the play, everyone knows what position to get into, where to go, how to do it. You've practiced. You have a sense of that system. You know how it's going to operate. You feel calm inside when that happens. Otherwise, it's like, think of a disaster situation, right? If you don't have your disaster preparedness box, you're scrambling, you're chaotic, you're stressful. We had a tsunami warning here recently in Hawaii, and I realized I wasn't prepared. So after that, I was like, it didn't happen. There was no tsunami. I was like, great, nudge from the universe, get your box ready, get your stuff together, have a system in place so that everyone in the family knows what to do if that happens again, because then you can be calm in the situation, not stressed out, not panicking. And that applies to everyday life too. So it's systems all the way down, in ways that you understand how to operate, what to do in that moment. You don't have to think about it too much and you can just be calm in your body.
Next, love that by the way, is time.
Mm.
Bill Gates and Warren Buffett say it the best. No matter how much money I make, I can't buy back time.
Oh, yeah.
Please talk about to our global audience how having systems and preserving time and not wasting it is one of the most important things you can do in your personal and professional life.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because time will get away from you if you're not careful. And we live in a distraction culture, right? So there's so many things to take our time and attention. One of the things I did recently was get an app on my phone to track my phone usage and actually to put certain apps in there where I give myself time limits because what I noticed was there was like a time leakage. And if I had a moment or I was feeling stress or I was feeling I just didn't want to deal with what was happening in the moment, I would let myself become distracted and suddenly like an hour's gone by. And so I think systems like that in place are really important, but also just to know when, especially for someone who's self-employed, I'm self-employed, you kind of have to give yourself boundaries. Like, when do I stop work? When do I start work? When do
Mhm.
I have time for my kids? I homeschool my son as well. So we have systems
Oh,
like that. When are we
nice.
doing school? When are we doing other things? And, we're flexible with it, but it's like you have a system in place so that you can know what's happening, when it's happening, and everybody's on the same page.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, systems are big and help you to preserve time. Next is energy. I tell people energy is how we move, energy is what creates movement. And the more positive our energy is, the better we are and having the type of day, the type of life that we want. As Bruce Lee always talked about, always choose to speak wisely of yourself. Because
Mhm.
when you do that, you give yourself positive energy to feed off of. Please talk to our global audience, Aubrey, about how important it is to have and maintain positive energy to give you the best outcome that you deserve.
Yeah, it's everything. When I think about the futures, I often tell people, we tend to get into sort of disaster thinking or stress or anxiety, and I'm like, what if you tell yourself the story of how everything works out? Because the future doesn't actually exist; it's still coming towards you. So what if you tell yourself the story of, wow, it all worked out, and everything I had hoped for happened, and all the things I was worried about didn't happen? Tell yourself that story because you have a choice. Right. So that's one thing I would recommend, because having positive energy is everything. It changes the way. The other thing too is you start to magnetize other people. So if you're showing up with positive energy, you're going to have more positive results. You might still face challenges, but people are going to be willing to help you. They're going to want to be around you. You're going to have support because you're radiating this sense of positivity that other people want to be around. One of the things I'll do, if I not every morning, but when I can remember, before I wake up, just right as I'm waking up, I'll lay there in the bed and I'll take a few moments to just think about a few things I'm grateful for. My husband laying next to me, this home that I get to live in, the day that I'm going to have, the fact that I'm alive, even if you have a really hard time, the fact that you woke up, be grateful for that.
Mhm.
So just finding a few things to feel gratitude for to start your day off right, and noticing your thoughts. Like you've mentioned a few times how we talk to ourselves. When you first start noticing your thoughts, it can be quite shocking because we can be really, really hard on ourselves.
Mean to ourselves.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
notice those voices as not you. There are other voices that are maybe coming from people that have been in your life or experiences you've had, and just really hold them with compassion. Start to speak to yourself kindly like you would to someone else that you love. Love yourself in that way, the way you would your child, your partner, your friend, your parents, whatever it is, because that just starts to change everything when you speak to yourself with love and kindness.
It's very interesting. You talk about like energy and how when you have positive energy, it gives you a much better outcome in that regard. And so that's everything. It's
Yeah.
huge. And the last one is money, right?
Mm.
When we have systems in place, it helps us to preserve our capital. And I tell people all the time, never negotiate with investing in yourself, but you
Mm.
need to be very wise about the systems that you have around how you spend money. Because I tell you all the time, it is so easy to spend money, but it is
Yeah,
so hard to make it. They've got credit cards and bank cards and this, and like Amazon, hit a button, boom. Like, but again,
totally.
to make money, it's hard. So, how do you help people understand to have a system around their money, right, Aubrey? And how they have to look at that, like to help them create the type of futuristic life that they want for themselves.
Yeah, one of the things I sort of touched in early on in my own life in my 20s was I got really close to understanding what does financial freedom mean for me. And it wasn't necessarily having oodles and oodles of money. It was not feeling like money had to always be present in my life with bills and things like that. So I really
Mm-hmm.
early on set up auto pay systems and ways to know that like certain things were being paid in auto saving systems, so that it just like things were coming out and I knew how much was going to be spent, and I had a sense of that, but I didn't have to necessarily think about it all the time. And that gave me the sense to be free in my own creative endeavors. Everybody's sense of financial freedom will be different, but spend some time thinking about what that looks like for you and then setting up systems to support it, whatever it is. And then just look for energy leak. I'm sorry, money leakage, similar to energy leakage. Subscription services. Like go into your Apple
Oh,
iTunes every once in a while and be like,
man.
wait, I forgot I signed up for that thing that's been taking $10 every month out of my account. They're everywhere nowadays. And it's not something that we used to have 10, 20 years ago. So just paying attention to where money is leaking in little ways that you don't notice. And then allow yourself, I also think it's nice to allow yourself to be generous in ways that feel really good because there's something that's sort of like reciprocity of generosity. And it doesn't have to be all the time or in a way that's not responsible, but allowing yourself even little bits of generosity, like that barista that you see every morning, giving them a tip and feeling really good about it, but not feeling the pressure to do that kind of thing, but having that be part of your money system too, I think is a really balanced way of thinking about it.
I agree because when you're able to celebrate things and give yourself little treats here or there, it keeps our mind and our body working towards doing those things. And again, like I say, it's just a sense of enjoyment for ourselves. Like, for example, I'm a big movie person. So when I do something big or have something I want to celebrate, I take myself to the dinner theater and I pay, for that. So that's really huge, in that regard. So anyway,
One other
so
thing really quick on that one just came up that I think it's important is when your money does come in, because it is hard earned, celebrate it. Like look at the check, thank it, give it a little blessing because the money actually responds, I think, to that vibration. So I think that's a nice, and it's just for you too. It feels really good to just be grateful for that money that's coming in.
So, this is fantastic, Aubrey. Now, please tell us about your book.
Mm.
Why did you write it, and what is the main takeaway you want your audience to gain from reading?
So it's called Our Beloved Futures, which to me is an idea that when we craft futures from a place of love, back, love for ourselves, love for the earth, love for humanity, love for being alive, we actually build systems that support all beings. So I'm encouraging people through the book. It's a poetic book, so it's got a real kind of cadence and tone to it that's very poetic. I call it mythopoetic, but it's about empowering us to remember that we are co-creators of the future. Said it a couple of times, but I think it's really important for people to understand. We don't just receive what's coming towards us. We are co-creating it with every choice we make in the present. You talk about systems. It's like the systems you put in place today take you to new lands, new life ways tomorrow. So we are co-creating the future all the time. Remember how powerful you are. You may not feel it in the moment. You may feel like you're in a dark space, and I actually use this quote in the book. I say, when you find yourself in a dark place, you get to decide if you were buried or if you were planted. So are you being buried or are you a seed that's been planted in the dark that's waiting to sprout that has a beautiful future coming? That's actually a quote from the Zapatistas, an incredible movement group in Mexico. So it's really empowering people to remember that we are co-creators. We have that power, even if things feel really dark in the moment. There is future coming towards you and you get to think about what it looks like and activate that through these systems, practices, positive ways of thinking and being, and the use of your energy and time.
I wrote something down about when when you go get planted, do you want to stay there or not? And there's a great
Mhm.
quote: "Falling in the water doesn't make us drown.
Yeah.
Staying there makes you drown." And I
Mm.
tell people you have to raise up. You
Yeah.
have to keep pushing. You have to keep growing. And you can't just stay in a certain space. When things get hard, you gotta keep pushing.
Yeah.
Last question, Lori. Take a minute or less to answer this. What is the most important thing? It could be a attribute, it could be a skill. You pick. What is the most important thing people need to do, in your opinion, to start looking at things from more of the future and not just relying on their past accomplishments?
I think imagination is one of our like highest faculties as human beings. I think it's a great gift that we were given, the ability to dream and imagine while we're awake. And so just re-engaging with that, as kids, it's so alive for us. And then as adults, it starts to kind of dull down typically if we don't actively cultivate our imagination, but we can imagine all kinds of things. And so start to vision the life you want to live, maybe not the one that's happening now, or small tweaks you want to make. Wherever you're at, you can start to imagine something else, not from a place of delusion, but from a place of proactivity and positivity of what is possible and what's coming towards you. So I think, yeah, imagination would be reactivating your imagination. That might be through play, through journaling, through art, and everybody's an artist, even if you don't think you are, just try, don't, no judgment, singing, different things that just activate that part of our creative juices, our creative being.
This has really been fantastic, Aubrey, because my daughter is very
Ah,
artistic. And then my 21-year-old daughter, not so much. I'm not either. But I like how you said we all are artists in our own way. We just
yeah,
have to not worry about what the outside world thinks of our art, or don't anybody judge us or come up with a preconceived notion. So I found that very riveting. So this has been a phenomenal interview, Aubrey. How can our global audience get in touch with you if they would like to find out more about you or how to support you or, buy your book, all that kind
yeah.
of great stuff?
Yeah, so this is the book here, Our Beloved Futures, and you can see it. But
Yep, got
it's
it.
on Amazon.com. It's on all the
Okay.
platforms. My website is ourbelovedfutures.com, and it's got information about me. I also have a Substack. I do events and workshops and things like that. And on Instagram, it's aubrey.morgan.yee, or Our Beloved Futures are both Instagram handles. So yeah, people can find me any of those places. I also have a podcast called Beloved Futures. So it's all sort of the same words. Yeah.
Love it. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please reach out to her. Aubrey Morgan Yee has a phenomenal perspective on how to start thinking about things from a futuristic perspective. And again, it's so funny how we're now meeting. And I was just looking at something yesterday about how so many people live in the past and they
Mm,
end up destroying their future. So
yes.
now here we are having a conversation about how to live more in the future. And again, that's going to be my authentic tip. But I just want to thank our amazing sponsor, Franosity. Mr. Cliff Nanamacher and his organization, his partner, do a phenomenal job helping people get into the franchise business to be able to
Mm,
take their business, become a franchise, or get into the franchise business and find the right franchise to become a owner of. They've helped over thousands of people in that space. And you can go to their website, which is Franosity, FRANOCITY.com. Again, FRANOCITY.com. You can shoot Cliff an email, cliffin@franosity.com. And the authentic tip of this great interview, and I wrote it down while Aubrey was speaking so I wouldn't forget it. Live your life with imagination. One of
beautiful.
my favorite, I guess you can call it like, cartoon type, nursery rhyme type things when
Yeah.
we were younger, right? Was Puff the Magic Dragon.
Oh yeah.
And it was all
He's from
about
Hawaii, by the way.
it's all about
Yeah.
imagination, right? It's
Yeah.
all about thinking out of the box.
Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to be put into a box and stay there. You have the ability to open that box. You have the key to unlock it. And the key to unlocking that door to get out of that box is imagination.
Yeah.
Live your life with imagination, everything else will take care of itself.
Amazing.
Again, my name is Marques Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.